Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Great Employees Matter live podcast. My name is Jimmy Bingham, and I, along with my co-founders, Kobe Dumas and Lloyd Dix, are thrilled to be able to have a much anticipated great conversation with our guests of the week, Kobe, Lloyd, and Jimmy. The title for today's show is Mentorship Matters. As you know, we do this about once a month in order to have a conversation amongst us, which we believe is beneficial to our Great Employees Matter audience. Let me read for both us and your audience, or our audience, an excerpt from one of our training programs wherein we discuss the value of mentorship in a person's growth, both personal and professional. So let's start with the definition of mentorship. Mentorship is a professional and personal development relationship in which a more experienced or knowledgeable individual, the mentor, provides guidance, advice, and support to a less experienced or less knowledgeable person, the mentee. The goal of mentorship is to foster growth, skill development, and career advancement by sharing insights, offering encouragement, and helping the mentee navigate challenges. It's a collaborative and mutually beneficial relationship that promotes learning, confidence, and empowerment, ultimately leading to both personal and professional success for the mentee. So the three of us are just going to have a conversation today, and we'll be asking each other questions about what mentorship means to us, how mentorship has helped us in our careers, and answer questions that we would anticipate be asked by everyone here. But please go ahead and jump to the chat box and ask your specific questions, and we'll respond to those. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kobe. And Kobe, I think maybe the first question for you is, how have you personally benefited from mentorship throughout your career? I know you've had several very impactful mentors. You've certainly had more mentors than I have. And just listening to your stories about mentorship and how it has brought you on your journey and gotten you here where we're doing this, I find it to be fascinating. So if you can share with us how you personally benefited from mentorship from those mentors that have been in your life, especially over the last 20 years.
Yeah, before I do that though, Jimmy, I'd like to welcome everybody that's coming into the group. Welcome if you're just joining us. Jimmy likes to go super fast, which is great. That's all right. We've been doing all kind of stuff all over the place this morning. I'm on coffee, so I'm super hyper. So if I'm talking fast, just slow me down. But anyway, with that being said, welcome everybody to Great Employees Matter. Please like, subscribe if you came into the shop. And as Jimmy mentioned earlier, we like to come in and we're running a business called Great Employees Matter. We help people and businesses kind of come together and make peace so that everybody can win, which is what it's originally designed to do. And it's funny today, we decided to talk about mentorship, and going down my Facebook page. And 11 years ago, one of my mentors popped up. I'm gonna give him a shout out right now. His name is Jerry Campese. He was my financial mentor. And so you asked me, Jimmy, how has mentorship impacted my career and my life? I think that I wouldn't be sitting in front of you if I didn't have some very valuable mentors that were able to help me and guide me and teach me some of the things that I maybe was not doing appropriately to help me, figure that out. So, anyways, I would like to recognize him. I had another mentor by the name of Alfonso Labato. He was is an entrepreneur, business owner, and he really helped me shape my mindset as far as business and getting into entrepreneurship. I was hard headed when I met him, and he has some pretty strong posture with me, which was needed in order for me to be able to change my trajectory, and as far as what I was doing for work. And had I not met him, I probably wouldn't be on the line talking with any of you guys. I probably wouldn't have been involved in radio. I probably wouldn't have been involved heavily in helping people and mentorship and coaching and things like that. So the mentors in my life, I value, Jimmy, because they have changed the direction of where I was headed almost every single time. And I've had several, right? And I know I have people that I probably call a mentor that don't even think that they're my mentor, because it's not like something you talk about sometimes. I got a guy by the name of Byron Nelson, who I still learn from to this day, we were in the same company, and the wealth of knowledge that I get from him and his posture and how he deals with people and his selfless servant attitude is just incredible. So for me, mentors have been super, super important.
Great. Lloyd, have you had any mentors that you can refer back to and discuss how they help you?
Sure. Before we get there, though, I'd like to speak to just for a second about the concept of being a mentor.
Absolutely.
And in my experience, there are people who I've encountered who are afraid to ask for help, or who are afraid to surround themselves with people that are brighter than they are. And I've always found it to my advantage in the workplace, socially, to surround myself with people who are going to bring me up. And so I'm not afraid to work with people who have more knowledge, or are more sophisticated, or even are better at their job than I am, because they lift me up, and they make me a better person and make me better at my job. And so I would encourage anybody who's out there who has that kind of fear to go ahead and to try and embrace it, and to work with people who can teach you things. And then, I can get personal. I can start with my father. I worked with him for many years when I was first starting out as a lawyer, and he helped me with lawyering. I can refer to Howard Zucker, who taught me, and Chet Sloan, who taught me about horse racing and got me into one of my passions, and who helped me with that. And I can talk about Jimmy and Kobe, who are steering me down the path of what is the latest chapter in my life. So we can explore any or all of those as time goes on. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Jimmy.
Well, you raised an issue that is worthy of comment, and that is all of us have either been a mentor or a mentee to some degree, and maybe just haven't realized it. The classic case would be what you just mentioned, that your father, and I understand that you were speaking of your father in a professional um, frame of discussion, wherein he helped you in your lawyering career. But you and I and all fathers and all mothers are mentors. If you look at the classic definition of someone who is more experienced, that is sharing information with someone that is less experienced, to help pull the lesser experienced, the mentee, along and make them a better person. And so we're all mentors if we have children, if we have spouses, if we have friends that we have tight relationships with that look up to us for whatever it is that they seek out of that relationship. And likewise, we have all been mentees in that we've either had parents or caregivers or persons that raised us, and in some cases it's your grandparents. Your parents weren't around to raise you, but those we've all been mentees, so we understand the relationship between the mentee and the mentor. Um, Let me ask you this, Kobe. What are some of the key traits that make someone an effective mentor?
Key traits that make someone an effective mentor. I think you got to be a good listener. I think you have to be patient, and you have to be doing something worth. Well, not necessarily so. I think anybody can be a mentor because, like you said, it's life experiences. So somebody may, like I'll bring up one of my friends who hopefully he doesn't mind me calling him a mentee. We work together. His name is Chris Charming. We work together and do a lot of stuff, but although he probably sees himself in the role of a mentee, we both exchange that information back and forth. I also learned from him as well. I would also consider him a mentor because he's also teaching me things in the way of doing things how the younger generation does it, especially in production. So there's a lot of things that I still, I, I'm accustomed to doing, but there's a lot of new ways of things that's happening. So that mentorship reverses, in my opinion. So I think the best traits for you to have is just to be flexible, open, and understand that's a two-way street regardless. And I think if you respect being a mentee, then you can also understand the value of being a mentor. And so I'm looking at the chat. We got one of my friends, Mo Johnson. He's actually one of our clients for BCJK. He says Kobe has been a great mentor to me since I met him, from business to my life in general. He helps me from my podcast, studio podcast show, the videos for my artist, Crazy Crazo, to my whole business, even my clothing business. He has had a huge impact on my business and life. Shouts out to Kobe Dumas, a real mentor. And I love that. I thank you. That's great. I love when people can reach out and recognize that. But I would in turn say that, man, in business with Mo or John, I've been mentored by him as well. I've learned a lot from him as well. He does things very different. He's also, just like us, considers himself. I don't even know if he considers himself a selfless servant, but that's what he is. He helps people on a regular basis, regardless of his situation. He has a great business model, and a great energy to go about it. And to me, those are all great traits. So I'm glad that he left the comment and came up just in time, because his last comment that he made is mentoring others every day, and I love it. I'm gonna throw it to you guys to comment.
Um, Lloyd, from you had businesses, had your own law firm. You've worked for other companies, and you've been a mentor in various forms. So, from an employer's perspective, how can mentorship programs that the employer actually offers enhance employee performance and engagement?
Yes. So the most employers have some kind of introductory period. And in the companies that I worked for, mentoring continues throughout the process. It's disguised, right? People think it's an employment performance review, or something having to do with how they conduct their day-to-day business. But that's just really mentoring. Let's role play. Let's put you on the phone and pretend you're the customer, and I'll be the agent, and we'll see where we can go right or we can go wrong. And of course, that does two things. That not only teaches the employee, but it also makes the employee think that you care. So even if you really don't care, where some of the companies I worked for didn't care, but even if the company really doesn't care, they give the illusion that they care, and they make the employee feel better. So we've had guests before that have talked about the importance of following through if you're going to listen to your employees. But that's really just another form of mentoring, is just the continued on the job training. I'm going to listen to what you do. I'm going to see what you do. And then if you combine that with accepting the employee's feedback for ways in which their individual job can be made better, you're going to go a long way towards the employee's satisfaction.
I agree. Would you both agree that mentorship doesn't necessarily need to be one-on-one? That someone, for example, a motivational speaker or a pastor, a reverend that speaks to masses, would you consider them to be mentors as well?
I actually prefer a personal relationship with the mentor, but I think that you get your mentorship from everywhere. You can get your mentorship from books, right? So to answer that question that you're saying, that if there's a person that's a pastor or a public speaker that's talking your language and helping you through challenges in your life and helping you, that could be considered a mentor in my book.
I agree. I actually raised the question because we happen to have a client. His name is Chris Smith, who's a motivational speaker, and he doesn't know it yet. But I actually look at him as a type of mentor because of the message that he delivers. And I was thinking to myself the last time we spoke to him, which was early this morning, that I wish I had met him or someone like him much earlier in my career, because he gives very directed recommendations on how one can be a better person themselves and in the workplace. And it follows with our mantra that employees need to be accountable to themselves for themselves, right? Not for the employer, because if they're accountable to themselves, they will actually be accountable to the employer at the same time. But I can see Chris as being a mentor that I'd like to have in my life. But you're right, that would be more of a one-on-one relationship. We also have a phenomenal client, Buddy Miles, who is a spiritualist, right? And for those of you that were on the podcast last week, he was our guest. But the message he delivers is one that we can all benefit from. So I do think that pastors, reverends, all persons of the cloth are in fact mentors. They're just different in that they're mentoring to a group as opposed to mentoring to the individual. Okay.
You got a comment, Lloyd, before I step in?
No, I was just thinking that it was time for my first patented softball question of the day.
Oh no, I'm not ready yet. No, I'm not ready yet.
I was going back to Jimmy. And Jimmy, if you were marooned on a desert island for the last of your life, and you could bring back one person, any person, we exclude family because we don't want to be insensitive to anybody, but any person either alive or dead, of course they would be alive when they came to your desert island, to speak with, to talk with, to communicate from now through the end of time. Who would you like that to be and why?
Boy, there's so many to choose from, and there's all the obvious ones that people are likely to choose. I'm sorry that you said that we had to exclude family, because I would love to have continued conversations with my mother.
Yeah.
I would love to have had a better relationship with my father, the person I call my father, who raised me, who's not my natural father, because I learned so much from them up until the date of my mom's passing. I learned from her. But in answer to your question, following your rules of not using family, um, I would be intrigued with someone like a Thomas Jefferson, someone who is so instrumental in doing such large things, right? creating the United States of America. And all of those people that signed the Declaration of Independence and put forth their time, effort, sacrifices, risking their lives. But someone like a Thomas Jefferson is particularly intriguing to me because of his handling of finances, his knowledge of how that all worked. I believe that he was, I can't think of the name. I apologize. I told him this. But, so let me throw out there Thomas Jefferson. How about
That's
you?
a great choice, Kobe.
Yeah, it's real easy for me. The mentor that I would pick, and you guys can look him up. He was well known in the industry that I was in, which was MLM. But his name was Mark Yarnell, and Mark Yarnell passed a few years back. And there's been a lot of people that's had impact in my life. And you said that who I could talk to again, because I still have current mentors like Kevin Carter, who still owe me lunch, Kevin. If you're watching this, you still owe me lunch. But who's still here? But Mark had such a profound impact on my life, my mindset, my thought process, my business. He was talking to me about being in his business. I didn't want to do it. I was successful in another business, but we continued to be friends. He didn't hound me about it, and he continued to teach me about the business, about my business for somebody else, but also about life as well. And we just connected really well. And it's crazy we're having this interview because his wife, I just saw a message from her on Facebook from an old message. So all of these things are coming up, my mentorship. So I look at it like the universe is really speaking. And I feel like I've been fortunate in my life, maybe it's open, whatever you call it, to be able to have people like Jimmy and like you come into my life and be able to help guide me in the ways that help me grow and get better.
I've answered this question myself with consistently with Leonardo da Vinci. I want to meet the guy that hundreds of years ago invented the helicopter. It's just amazing to me the stuff that he came up with at that time, and I'd love to be on a deserted island with him, and to ask him questions. So we've touched a little bit on what mentorship means. We've touched a little bit on who our mentors are, and we further touched on mentors from history, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy, where would you like to take us next?
I want to take us to the guests actually, because there's a few questions in the comments that we haven't addressed yet.
Good.
Okay.
So I'll start with the question on the board, which is a great friend of ours, Dale. Dale, thank you for supporting us. We love it. We really appreciate your support. It means a lot. It keeps us coming back to keep coming up with topics. And with that being said, if you guys have topics or anything you want us to talk about or any guests you want to see, just reach out. We're open to that. But Dale says, as a mentor, did you find it difficult to set a proper roadblock to an individual without causing damage to a person in the right direction? And without being too transparent, because I think we're going through this currently with a client, and it's very difficult when you see the map and you understand where you're headed, and there's very hard things that you need to direction that you need to go, and then you get resistance from the mentee on that, right? So usually for me, I find that it is difficult, but I find it easier if you have the conversation ahead of time when you're mentoring somebody and being open as a mentee, that person's going to coach you. And a lot of times they're not going to tell you stuff that you want to hear. They're going to ask you to do things that you haven't been doing. That's the purpose of a mentor or a coach, is to have you do things that you're not accustomed to doing so that you take action in a direction that you normally wouldn't do without the coach. And a lot of times we find ourselves in a position where, a coach, I'll give you a great story from my mentor, Mark Yarnell, where he's telling me how to do business a certain way. And I'm telling him that I don't really think that's going to work. And I want to do it this way. And he hangs up in my face. Like, okay, well, do it your way. Click. I didn't understand it. I was mad. I was upset. Tried to do it my way. But a few weeks later, when I made that call back, guess what happened? The first words out of his mouth was, "Did you fix the problem, or are you ready to listen?" He didn't even entertain it. He picked up the conversation right where we left it, which was hilarious to me. But I was ready to listen. And his comment was, "I've already done it. I've already been there. So why would you tell me what's not going to work?" Because he's already done it. And it made sense to me. And I've been operating that way ever since. So I think that's important.
I actually think that's a crucial point to the mentor-mentee relationship, right? If it's a valuable relationship, the mentee understands that the mentor knows more, right? Because they've been through it, right? They have that experience, that practical experience that they can share with the mentee. Therefore, it's very important for the mentee to listen to the mentor. They already, if they've accepted them as a mentor, then they already have a trust. But sometimes you need to add to the trust faith. You need, and not from a religious perspective, but faith in having picked this mentor. I now have somebody for whom, if I listen to, I had the faith that they're going to guide me in the right direction. And sometimes we might not feel it. Sometimes we might say, wow, this guy's crazy. This gal's crazy. And we cut ourselves short because we've adopted that position. And without listening through, without trying, without doing what they tell you to do, we end up cutting ourselves off at the knees. We can totally stop our advancement. So I think it's important for listening to be the primary characteristic of the mentee, but the mentor needs to listen too, right?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes the mentor gets into a space where they're so driven to get this specific message out that the mentee might have a question or a comment that the mentor listens to. It's only going to enhance the information they can share with the mentee, and they can either correct them or they can say, you know what, that was a great idea. That was a great question. That was a great concept. I'm going to add that to my mentoring because that makes sense, and I forgot about it. So it's important for the mentor to listen as well. It's more important for the mentee to listen.
And Dale said, when he wrote that question, he said, "By the way, Jimmy did that for me years ago." So I guess you had to guide him on a hard turn, and obviously he accepted it because he's still here supporting your journey today, which is incredible.
And
right?
I thank you for that, Dale. I was actually considering. Funny that you should mention it. I was actually considering mentioning on the podcast that can you imagine if someone like a Dale Shelton, who is a very good drummer, very good percussionist. I mean, drums, he plays the congas, he does all kinds of stuff. But what if someone like a Buddy Rich had come into his life early on, taken him under wing, taught him not only tips about drumming, but also the music industry. Dale might have gone from being a really good drummer to an outstanding, exceptional, great gem of a drummer, right? Same with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is an excellent drummer. He was actually the head of the percussion unit at Music Institute in Los Angeles. And I'm sure he had some mentors there to get him to where he was. But what if he had someone, and I say Buddy Rich only because I'm old, but what if he had someone like Buddy Rich to mentor him? And maybe he would be playing professionally for a band rather than teaching, but his passion is in teaching.
Oh, I love it. We got a question from Miss Sachiko Dumas as well. How can employees implement mentorship programs to build a stronger, more motivated workforce? She never fails.
Lloyd, you want to take that?
Sure. So I don't want to get hung up in the mentor mentee title, because there are so many different ways, and we've all had mentors who were informal or whatever, who guided us and helped us along the way. And for the employee, it starts with what you can do to show you care. I think that in the mentor-mentee relationship, it's kind of like going to the doctor. When we go to the doctor, we put our complete trust in the doctor. And what the doctor tells us, that's what we have to do. And most of us have no idea what the doctor is talking about. That's why we went there in the first place. Hey, doc, I don't know what this is, or I've got this, or what can you tell me? But we are placing that relationship. Well, the same thing's true in the employer-employee relationship. The employer is supposed to know what he wants, how you're going to get there, what it costs, and all the things that you have to know. And now he has to listen to the employee, let the employee knows that he cares, and as has gone through all of our podcasts, is communicate effectively, because communication seems to be really, really important. But I think that it goes back to Dale's question. When you're communicating effectively, you have to set the boundaries. You have to let the employee know that, you're going to do it. You're going to get them through it. They have to trust you, and you are going to help them. And that's true whether it's informal or formal. Even in the informal relationship, the employee has to feel that they're in good hands from somebody who cares, and somebody that they can trust.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And one of the ways when I was coaching youth and mentoring, and I had a big team, and I used to coach a lot there. And one of the things that I used to always fall back on, I think the quote's by Theodore Roosevelt. I think it's Theodore Roosevelt. So don't, if I misquote it, I apologize. But I think the quote goes, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that really helped me with my mentorship, because a lot of times if you're out there and you know everything and you're just pushing it about on people and it doesn't seem like there's any care in what they want, then the message doesn't resonate. It doesn't stick. But when they know that you care, when they know that you're out for their good interests, when they know that you're trying to look out for their best benefit, then that knowledge that you have, to me, makes a more of an impact and becomes super important.
And I'm glad that both of you mentioned the word care, because it's, we're pretty hard on employers. Employers tend to miss the mark most of the time when it comes to caring for their employees. A lot of employers claim they care, but it ends up appearing to be lip service, even if it's not, even if they're actually trying to do things on behalf of the employee. But they need to demonstrate that they truly care. When they're mentoring, they need to let the employee know that they're doing exactly that. They're mentoring, and they're mentoring because they care about you as the individual. They care about your professional growth. They care about your ability to, through the exposure of broader perspectives of the work environment. They want you to realize that you can expand your roles and responsibilities through these mentorship programs. But it's all for naught if the employee doesn't believe that the employer is caring. Right?
Agree.
They care about that employee. So thank you for both for saying that.
And Jimmy, you're a good example to me as I watch you and the people that we work with and our business partners, and just some of the experiences that I've seen with you as far as caring and taking care of people as a mentor. I do consider you a mentor, very much so, and in a lot of ways. And so looking at how you deal in people, my question to you is what do you get back out of mentoring? Because I can see that you receive something
Oh,
from that experience. Can you share that?
I receive so much. I get so much joy out of seeing people advance for themselves personally. I get so much joy in knowing that I've touched somebody's life, even if I am directly told about it. I give you an example. Back when I was the CEO of or CFO of a charity organization called Athletes and Entertainers for Kids, we would go into environments, mostly at-risk inner city youth, and provide them with services. We provide them with education, provide them with motivation, take them to events, that sort of stuff. Um, and I recall one time that I was giving um, a presentation on work, right? On why kids have to do well in school, have to apply themselves. You don't need to be a straight A student, but you need to apply yourself. You need to learn the basics so that when you go out and get a job or create your own business or whatever it is that's going to be your employment, that you're prepared for it. And there's this one young boy. I would guess he was about 8 years old. And he was the only one, noticeably, the only one in the class that seemed not necessarily disengaged. Let me describe it as skeptical. And he kept looking at me, but I couldn't get him to answer any questions. There was no facial expression where he was enjoying anything or grabbing anything from it. And I had a conversation with that teacher of his class, probably a week, maybe a week and a half later, and asked, if she thought that the session went well, and without any prompting on my part, because she didn't know what I thought about this young man, she said, and for lack of me knowing what his name actually was, he said, she said, one thing that really stuck out for me, and I think that I should share with you, is that Johnny sat there as he typically does in class and is paying attention, but it just seems a little bit disengaged. I said, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. And she said, well, you'll be glad to know that a couple of days, maybe it was the next day, after your session, he came up to me and said, thank you so much for having Mr. Bingham come and talk to us. I think I want to be a chef, just out of the blue. And he was excited about the fact that I had given him enough information and enough confidence that he was going to go ahead and do all those things that were necessary for him to become a chef. And I wish I had followed up with it. I wish I could say to you today, well, Johnny is now the head chef at some famous restaurant in Paris. But I didn't keep in touch with them. But I know that any of us, when we're attempting to help other people, um, aren't always aware of the impact that we have. And so that's part of my enjoyment, my appreciation, my satisfaction, my what I get out of being a mentor. I love that I can positively impact somebody's life. Thank you for
Well, well, Jimmy, for me, the impact is incredible that way too. It's not necessarily money. It's just something. It's just something about when you help someone. And a lot of times, I think a lot of our words, our actions, and the things that we do may go out, and they may not come back. You may not know what's happening. You may not know what it is, but I've been shown time and time again that sometimes it doesn't come back that way, but the impact goes far. And I'll give you a great example. Dennis Nermella. Remember that conversation this morning? I was telling
Yeah.
you about how I got into the radio. Well, my mentor just stepped in. What's up, Dennis? I don't know if you're in China or not or whatever, but Dennis Nermella would be considered a mentor of mine as well. He got me into doing what I'm doing right now, which is on the radio. I started my very, very, very first radio show as a co-host for Saturday Morning Success TV talk show with Mr. Dennis Nermella, and it was a fun time. I didn't know I wanted to be in radio at the time. He probably somehow knew that it was going to happen. And not only did we do radio together, we also did a TV show. He had a TV show, and I was his producer on the TV show for Saturday Morning Success TV talk show as well, and other countless endeavors. But no, Dennis Nermella is greatly a big mentor of mine, and is responsible for a lot of the things that I do today, especially in radio. So thank you for joining us and checking out the page, man. It's just great.
Kobe, I just wanted to acknowledge that you just asked one of the two biggest empaths on the planet what pleasure he gets out of helping other people. Jimmy lives for helping other people, and it is a sheer enjoyment without expectation of any reciprocity or anything coming back. I have, other than the other empath on the planet, I have never known anybody that got as much enjoyment out of helping other people. And it goes back also to the fact that one of the best things to teach somebody something, if you have a kid that is having trouble in math, have them go tutor somebody else. One of the best ways to learn something or to go over something is to express your ideas and to try to teach somebody else. And so when I pass my half-baked ideas off to Jimmy mentors me, and they come back with better ideas because it's as if the two of us have collaborated on them and have gotten them. So he gets not only the emotional and the spiritual uplift, but we both then profit, if you will, from the sage advice and how much better it's become by talking it out. We often say that one person can't do the work of two, but three people can do the work of five, and five people can possibly do the work of 10. And so when you put the people together, you do come up with better ideas, and both the mentor and the mentee get something out of the process.
Yeah, I agree.
So very cool.
Hey, Dennis, thank you for coming in, man, and glad to see you in China. Come check us out in Vegas when you come out. Probably have you on the show.
Let me ask a question for the benefit of the entire class. There are likely people that are listening live or will be listening to this broadcast later who don't have a formal mentorship program, right? Or their workplace doesn't really offer something like that. And I'm going to go back to Lloyd's comment early in this podcast that he likes, as I do, to not be the wisest person in the room, right? Because we can always learn. There's nothing that ever stops us from learning. I would say, except death, and I suspect that we probably learn after death too. But I think that it is important. I lost my train of thought. I'll just have to be absolutely honest. I lost my train of thought, and it was
a good one. It happens. It happens. That happens to me all the time. Yeah, no, that happens to me all the time. I want to. So since you lost your train of thought, and we're closing up pretty quick here, I want to go ahead and make sure that I acknowledge some of my some of the people that I consider were great mentors to me, and I can't forget another person. You've heard Kevin Carter, Dennis Nermella, you've seen here. Kevin Carter has helped me in my corporate world. he helped me get to a regional manager status, not by promoting me, but by putting me in the right place and making sure I had the right discipline to get there. At an early age, I was a regional manager at 26, and I'm regional manager, like states in my area. And so I definitely want to acknowledge Kevin Carter. I want to acknowledge another big mentor of mine. His name is Bing. Being Bruce from Raptor Films, worked with him for a while. I was one of his producers for lots of shows, Hollywood Entrepreneur, The Ripple Effect, countless other projects. But he's also instrumental in helping me with my radio career and my production career, and I owe a lot to him. And so those two people I don't want to leave off the list. And then, of course, my parents, right? My parents were very instrumental in making sure that I turned out the way that I turned out. My dad, who's no longer here, I think I'm pretty close to how he was as a person, just by looking at the things that he's left behind, and I'm able to look at. The dogs are going crazy, right? So, but those are, I'm sure I'm leaving people off the list. Mark Yarnell, these were my impacts. These were the people that really, when I say mentor me, they changed the direction of my life. And part of that happened because I was open to it. A lot of times you got to be open to that, right? Dennis is in the room, or he may have left, but I did not want to be on the radio when he was asking me to be his co-host. I was like, no, why would I do that? I'm not going to do that. But it turned out to be a really good decision. So I'm here and I'm thankful. So just recognize your mentors, and when you find one and you find a good one, be coachable. That's it.
I apologize for my children, the two dogs. Normally, when we do our podcast, I send it over to our neighbor and she takes care of them. But she is on assignment this afternoon, taking care of one of her mentees. I'm actually taking them to the hospital.
You didn't say nothing about my child that's being obedient right now.
Your child's always obedient, because his father lives by carry a big stick.
Yeah, I got tricks and treats all year round, not just for Halloween.
Okay, so the train came back. So the point that I was going to get to is that for employees that are on this podcast, one question you might be asking yourself is, well, how do I find a network or find a mentor? Because if they don't believe that there's a mentor, or a mentor hasn't been offered to them in the workplace, there are plenty of places you can go to find a mentor. And I'm going to ask both Colby and Lloyd to add to this. But you can attend industry events if you want a mentor that's specific to your industry, right? If you're a appliance person, then go to an appliance industry meeting or gathering and meet some people. And you might find somebody that is very successful in that trade, and that might be willing to take under the wing and be a mentor. Join professional networking groups, and always put yourself in a position where there are people around you that know more than you about something, right? So that's a good way. Lloyd, do you have any other suggestions on how somebody can find a mentor?
I'll let Lloyd go first.
Just call Jimmy. His phone number is 555-5555. Jimmy is the tie for one of the two biggest empaths on the planet, and he'll be happy to personally assist you in finding whatever you need.
No, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Find your own mentor. That was mine. We don't have time to share right now. We got too much to do.
We don't? Call Jimmy at 555. If for any reason Jimmy is busy, our voicemail system will automatically connect you to Kobe Dumas. That is KOB. That's a Y at the end. And it's just in case you have to hit the dial by name directory. And Kobe will connect you with a mentor. No, seriously, there's a lot of different groups out there. I know that a lot of seniors, after they retire, they love to get back into it and to help people. You can find trade associations that will help you. Of course, we recommend you start with friends, family, coworkers, people who will be more in tune with your specific situation. But if you want the anonymity, there are organizations and places you can reach out. And you really can contact us by email. Kobe will put our email up there, and we will get you to a referral one way or another if your own network of coworkers and friends can't help you. And we will place you with one of these referral services, which will help you because there are a lot of them out there. And there's just too much in this world going on between work and stress and everything that you shouldn't have to go it alone. So if that comes up, we at Great Employees Matter are willing to help. And I'll turn it over to Kobe for whatever it is that he's going to do.
Yeah, no, I cheated like I always do. And I asked our assistant, Alicia, and Alicia said within your workplace, supervisors, managers, or experienced colleagues can be excellent mentors. Many companies have formal mentorship programs, so inquire about existing opportunities at your workplace. Professional organizations and associations, industry specific, so you can look for what you like. Networking events and conferences, these are my favorites. These are those guys that speak my language. I love going there, and they love to train and teach others. They're at a networking event or a conference, so that should give you a clue. Social media is a great place, and LinkedIn also great places for you to be able to find mentors. I find LinkedIn being the best out of all of them because it's mostly geared towards employers and people who want to hire you and build networks. Alumni networks, your old school friends is probably a great place to find some mentorships. Entrepreneurship or startup communities, volunteer and nonprofit organizations, and friends and family to me are just a couple to name a few. But like I said, I had to let Alicia do it because she's going to do a much better job than all of us as far as compiling the information. But my whole thing about it is anybody can be a mentor for you. If it's somebody that you respect, and you got to be able to give them permission to mentor you. You can't, if they tell you to do something and you don't want to do it, you still have to be able to go through that because that's the whole purpose of having a mentor, for them to help you through the actions that you don't normally want to do, right? And they will help you get to the next place. So I would say look for them everywhere, ask. Lots of people will mentor you if you ask them. I'm one of those types of people. I do it all the time, probably way more than I probably should, but it's just who I am.
And before I turn it over or back to Kobe for our exit, I would just like to say that I hope that one of the key takeaways for this podcast, for those listeners, is that mentorship is not just about receiving guidance, right? It's about forming a partnership that benefits both the mentor and the mentee, because that partnership is important. That level of respect between both of you is important. So I think that should be a key takeaway. Mentorship is a powerful tool for both personal and professional growth, and it can change the future of an individual, and it can change the future of an organization. So I hope you all got something out of today's session. We were looking forward to it because it is a good way for us to share with you in an open environment what we do as far as trying to help employees and employers at Great Employees Matter. So, Kobe?
Yeah, so with that, man, thank you everybody for showing up. And we're going to be doing this at least once a month where you just get us. We train, we teach. This is what we do on a regular basis, and we'll also be bringing great guests to you to come in and help share their expertise and help us coach everybody else, because we also don't know everything, and want to be able to help. So like, subscribe, let us know, comment, give us your feedback, good, bad, indifferent. We're going to take it all in stride, and always be a gem. Remember, see you next week.
Great employees matter.